What up, everyone? This is Mr. Lord Dr. Professor Dark Joker here with another edition of Traditional Fans with Opinions, where I'll give my reviews for whoever I watched, read, or played today. And who are traditional fans with opinions? That is myself, and that is you, the viewers. With all that being said, on with the reviews. One Piece, Season 22, Episodes 16 and 17. So in these episodes, so Luffy's group arrives at where Loki is chained up, and Hydrogen and his group arrives. They try to convince Luffy to not release Loki, basically, but Loki is freed and he stands up, and you see like his presence, like how he has a lot of hockey. Then while it's going on, Summers are killing him. They've arrived, so and Shamrock is left, so the God Knights they're trying abduct the children, like the giant children, and which they're able to do, and then that's setting up the fight. So yeah, so you have like everyone's concerned, and you have the whole deal. There was like a village that was destroyed when the branch from the Am tree was cut off like years ago. And then so obviously like they're you have the tension between Hydrogen and Loki due to basically who like they have the same father. You have their different they have different mothers. There's stuff for that. And dude, yeah. So and then you have Loki was hurt and like so Loki was hurt and basically lose when the world happened. But they're setting up the rest of the arc like with the whole fight because you have soon we'll be getting the Herald flashback, but that'd probably be next year. And then so now the children, how they're able to do so Killam summons what the children fear most, which is various monsters from Elbaf mythology and other stuff. So it's like it's what the children fear most. And they do a different animation style for those monsters, so it looks like kids drawings, which is a very interesting thing they did. And then yeah, so then you know, Somers is having like an arrow, having vines surround the kids, and you have an arrow guiding them to like they're like asleep. So yeah, dude, there's gonna be some interesting stuff that's about to happen. But yeah, I thought these were good episodes. Looking forward to the next one. One Piece, chapter 11A9. So in this chapter, so Emu has stabbed Luffy through like part of the Atom Tree, like and like he is stabbed, like he's probably down for and Usopp senses what's happened through. It's implied to be his observation hockey, setting up him finally fully unlocking it, because that's been something that's been set up, a few times. And, Usopp asks if Luffy's okay. Nami's like, when is he not be okay? And Jimmy mentions how Loki was defeated. So yeah, and he says Luffy's hockey has gotten weaker, and so and the ice is melted, but Shuri's still like unconscious. Um, now Ragnar tries to refreeze. Um, Shuri saying that because she's like serving Emu, and then and Chopper's will translate her, and then basic, Brooks says, she's like a dart, that Shuri's like a dart to him. And, Loki and Hodgkin are both recovering. And then, and basically Hodgkin remembers, what Jrul told him gonna, if he's so injured, if he wants to still fight. And he tells him to go to Loki. And he says, even if the children are saved, they have to, you know, it's only temporary, that it ain't the people of the Reverie that decide. He says it's him. And Gerd asks Loki. And, Harald asks Hodgkin asks Loki if he knows who the guy is. Loki says he thinks it could be the king of the world. Now, when Emu's final, Emu mocks like Ace and Sabo. Bring out Ace was killed, and Sabo's part of the Revolutionary Army. And he stabs Luffy again. And Loki mentions to Hydrogen, after right after Harald died. So there was a portion that of what happened right after in that room that was not shown in previous chapters. So, Loki was wanting to hunt down the world government and to take revenge for Harald's death. And then, but, basically, he said, Shank says, he wants to take revenge too because Harald was his friend. But he's like, the world was trying to take over Elbaf, and but he says that was the end goal. They're preparing for a war. And Loki says it's not his problem the world government's at war. His father died, Harald died on just death, and he says all the soldiers. He says he wants vengeance. And Shanks asks who is guilty, who he strike to. And Loki says basically says he will take out the entire world government. And Shanks says the one who manipulated Harald was the king of the world. You know, Gabon tells him be careful about that. Shanks says no one's gonna believe it. Jrul and Loki, Jrul's like, wait, the whole concept of world government is that there's no one person who sits above her. And Loki's like, if that king's cover, he'll take his head. And Shanks says, if it's so the king's power is impossible to measure. It would be more of a mystery if he goes to marry Joe, and someone else would. If it was so simple, someone else would have dealt with evil already. Shanks says not the time yet to fight. So, and looks at don't tell what to do, he'll destroy it his way. So I'm guessing that's supposed to set up why Shanks captures Loki, because he knew it wasn't yet time to fight Emu. And, Loki says he spent like a few years trying to find Emu, but never found his way to him. And he says if that's the king of the world, he won't get a better chance. Hodgkin calls it a simpleton's idea of a plan, but he doesn't have a problem with it. And he says he wants a chance to avenge his father too. So you have Ragnar's argument with Brooke saying sure he's like a Dario, and you have Ragnar trying to think it through like what. And Salt calls Chopper to the library, and so it seems like well, obviously they're gonna set some stuff up, I guess, with the owl. So Emu then summons the axe of Xingtian, I guess, to finish off Luffy. And you have Zoro and Sanji, they're dealing with Sombras and killing him, who are using weapons from the amongst like the 19 swords, whatever. You know, basically because they're all weapons belonging to the 19 kings who created the world government. And then yeah, so and then and so Somers has the Shepherd family sword Graham, and Killiam has the Remo Shifu's sword, also like a spear or poleaxe, whatever, like Longinus, and so Gaban arrives and blocks Emu's attack. So looks like the next chapter is going to deal with Gaban versus Emu, at least for briefly. However that happens, who knows? We'll see what goes on. But yeah, I thought this was a good chapter. Dude, like, so it's confirmed Shanks did know about Emu. Like, he probably, I guess, figured some things out. Being a member of the God Knights, he obviously couldn't say so much, and obviously it was like Gabon couldn't say much. Like, it was like they were both trying to be careful, I guess, with over like how someone will like being careful about how they handle things. So looks like Shanks had a long-term plan that will probably come in play if Shanks does get involved with this fight at Elbaf, because the Vivre cards probably getting burnt. Like the Vivre cards for Luffy, Sabo has one. I you know obviously, so he'll be concerned. Dragon might then be concerned. You know, we'll see. Like, and honestly, everyone, all the captains from the Straw Hat Fleet, they all have it, so they're gonna send it. And since Bartolomeo had one, if Shanks has the one that Bartolomeo had, he'll know that something's going on with Luffy. So Shanks could arrive, and the Revolution Army could arrive pretty soon. And that'll be interesting because that would actually really turn the tide having all those together. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I thought this was a good chapter. Looking forward to the next one. Alternate Exorcist Kiyoshi chapters 102 to 103. So in these chapters, so Kiyoshi's grandmother Misugi trains Kiyoshi's friends, and so yeah, so they start learning more about their abilities, and Kiyoshi's dealing with all stuff. So like yeah, so you know basically, so and you see he's dealing with the revelation about who killed his like his his parents, and then so Misugi talks to him. And, Kyo says he has people he cares about and doesn't want to lose them. And Misugi remembers when Kiyoshi begged for her to train him, and so she had trained Kiyoshi like really hard, and so and then but she's like concerned about Kiyoshi dying because of Rushihara. And Mitsuki asks Kiyoshi if he wants to avenge his parents. Kiyoshi basically had wanted to like protect people. Yeah. So then Sakaki and had basically met him years ago, and basically Sakaki mentions that in that flashback to Mitsuki that that Mitsuki had cut ties with like her with Kiyoshi's mother, so that in order to keep them away from all the Exorcist stuff. And Kiyoshi had said, told Mitsuki that he didn't want anyone else to feel what he's feeling, after losing his parents. If he has the power to protect people, he wants to use it. Yeah. Yeah, so and then and Mitsuki told Sakagi that Kiyoshi was going to surpass her by the time he left. And so yeah. And then basically apparently the Solomon's Crest exorcism, apparently Kiyoshi hasn't been able to use that to like its full potential. It's only been use a fraction of its power. Yeah. And so basically, then when it's all trains, so Kiyoshi and his friends they prepare to leave. After like a card game, and so and Misugi thanks Misugi asks thanks Kiyoshi's friends for like looking after him, and so yeah, Misugi and Kiyoshi they say bye, then they all leave, so they return to like the Gates of Hell like restaurant, and so Misugi had not given him the the weapon, because she wants to be one who exercises Rishihara, even if she dies doing it. And she says she's gonna update Kitano, so the director about that, but he's not picking up. So when Kiyoshi, his friends return to the gates of hell, it's forbidden holy relic weapon. Kiyoshi said that Risuke had thrown it out, but Sakaki knows exactly what's going on. He deduced what and Sakagi, he gets a phone call. Think it's like just someone trying to order something out of delivery hours. But he says, tells Kiyoshi that he won't have time for summer festivals. And he says the emergency that the chairman, so Chairman Kitano is being stabbed. He's in critical condition, and they're wondering who could have stabbed him, but and Demon couldn't just show, so it's possibly whoever was working with whoever was the traitor working with demons there in the Black Parade, possibly is one who tried to assassinate him. And Kyoshi's been appointed to deal with it because he was with it since he was with Misugi's. He has an alibi. Yeah. So then, he has to go to the Exorcist Academy to investigate what happened as his first mission as a cross paladin. So setting up the next, I guess, big villain. Like, where they're gonna do a villain that's a not a great demon lord before getting to that final one, or if like it's supposed to be part of setup. Who knows? But yeah, I thought these are good chapters. Like, so they're saying Rishihara, then you have what's going with the chairman. However, that connects with Rishihara, who knows? But yeah, I thought these are good chapters. Looking forward to the next one. Ichi the Witch, chapters 92 and 93. So in these chapters, so Fujimine was talking to Hakari, saying like basically trying to hang out with Hakari. Guess she's being a little annoying about it. Yeah, so and then so apparently, and she explains how Amaduro got her brainwashers undone, and so Fujime tells and then Mayoi, who's like I guess trying to keep Fujime out. You know, Fujime tells Mayoi to tell Hakari that only she can be allowed to acquire Hakari, and then Mayoi then sends Fujimine away. Yeah, so and you have Hakari like trying to mourn Hitsugi, saying it was good magic that killed a lot of humans. Yeah, and then so basically then so it looks like there's a lot of human slaves in Hakari's like fortress, or whatever. So and basically there are a lot of them are witches, so he uses witches as slaves. So yeah, and then and then basically Mayo does tell Hakari about Amaduro's like brainwashing being undone, and then And then you have Amadero's begging for like the witch association to you know the witch like tell like the witch begs to allow her to like acquire Hawkery and basically sit. And so you have Kumigi's trying to figure out how to work things out, like try to help Amaduro. So Ichi offers to help her with that. Yeah, you know, yeah. And Dresscaris arrives, and and Gokuraku. So then, yeah. So and then basically, I guess they offer to help as well. And Dresscaris tries to tell him not to go anywhere, but like you know, and she's like, "All right, we're just gonna freaking deal with it." So then, they go on with Amaduro, and Boxster, who's a magic keeper, and so and then Boxer's mission is keep an eye on Amaduro, just in case the brainwashing hasn't been fully dealt with, and they gotta investigate Hakaru, basically because of its connections with Fujimine. So we'll see what else going on. So yeah, so they're all heading towards like the where Hakury's at. Yeah, yeah. So basically, then yeah, Amador thanks Kumigi's help for yeah for helping gain allies to help with the hunt for Hakury. And so yeah, we'll see what's going on. Amador vows to keep Kumigi safe, as to pay her back for her help. So then they arrive at Hakury's lair. Yeah. So then they bust into the lair, and then they see like this being with the cape. So I guess that's the next villain, probably a magic wear. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I thought these were good chapters, like how they set up the fight against Hakury. Yes, that's what this next arc's gonna be about. So we'll see how all that goes. What's Fujimine's obsession with it. But yeah, I thought these were good chapters. Looking forward to the next one. Spy Family, chapter 139.1. So in this chapter, so Twilight's escorted back to like I guess his hospital room. Basically, the nurses are dragging him. Basically, like you know, basically there's nothing he can do. So Nightfall's trying to figure out what's going on. So she learns that that Desmond is meeting with a former with the former Prime Minister Chapman, who's the one that started the war. And basically, apparently Donovan has like apparently owes a lot to him, whatever. So like whatever all's going on. So Nightfall tries to figure out information about who's the Dudley physician, and the hospital director didn't want to let anyone in, let the lead physician in except for emergency. So basically, there's a lot of trying to keep hush hush because I guess how high profile of a patient he is. And Anya's still trying to get there. Where she doesn't know what Donovan looks like or sounds like, so she like meets some kid as a patient. Officer trade outfits for a little bit, so she does disguise. She can't get past security, like the bodyguard, or whatever. So she goes away, gets back her outfit, And then yeah, so Nightfall tries to like use like tries to like find a way to the eavesdrop, gets a wire, shoots a wire towards the email to like the window, and then but she's concerned about a guard seeing that. Yeah. So and basically I guess whoever's with Donovan says the Chapman's not like really thinking anything. He's probably just dreaming. Probably he's in hell or whatever. Anya's trying. Basically the door won't open, which makes sense. Donovan's not stupid. So Anya's thinking maybe she's got to concentrate how she reads minds. So think about someone who would sound like how someone looks like Donovan doesn't look like. Someone who has a vibe like Damien. So she like starts concentrating on everyone, and don't know, and it almost looks like there's like a glow or something. Like don't know exactly if she like unlocks something with her psychic powers. That should be interesting because if Dolphin Desmond can read minds, that maybe there's like some like the frequency of their minds like crosses or whatever. Who knows? That could be interesting to see how that goes. But yeah, I thought this was a good chapter. I think we're getting close to the end with this. If they're having you know Anya trying to read Diamond Desmond's mind, I think they're setting up the end. You know, I thought this was a good chapter. Looking forward to the next one. Under Doctor chapters 26 and 27. So in this chapter, these chapters, so Haiji eats with Shuli and Chiwa. Basically you know, they're just cooking some like steaks, or whatever. And so yeah, and then basically they're eating out where, so they then there's like they see a big explosion, and then so Haiji and Shuli go in, they get some people out, and then basically they try help out as best they could. Yeah, yeah. So they were to coordinate everyone, say what's going on, like yeah, yeah. So basically, he explains the situation to the ambulance personnel that EMS that arrived, so they're able to get people to the hospitals, how to do priorities. Yeah. Apparently, and also they learned there's a state emergency in the hospital, and it can take like whoever the remaining 8 red patients. Yeah. And so then there's a doctor that's at the hospital when the hire like yeah, so says oh this guy's yellow like not too bad, Hygie then arrives said, actually it's red though. And he calls himself Kino. And the guy's like, alright, tell me 5 seconds why. And Hygie gives his proof and he explains, he saw with his own eyes. And basically the guy doesn't believe him. And then some guy calls the guy Samijima and he says, the hospital director arrives, said, and then the guy calls, Haiji and director. It's real to be the hospital from the first chapter, and Doctor Ishiguro, and Ishiguro tells Samijima to follow his directions. He'll take responsibility for whatever happens. So then they deal with the the cases, Samajima and Haiji keep arguing about it. So eventually Haiji's all right, let's do this, let me operate this one, they'll figure out. And so eventually arguing, basically there was a small piece of glass embedded in the myocardium in patient number 4 that he could see, and Sawajima cannot. Then when Sawajima, then when they start operating number 4, Sawajima sees the glass. He's like, he's right. He missed it. Like, but they're able to yeah, you know, basically then yeah, basically Ishiguro tells Sawajima that's the guy who helped him during the hijacking. You know, basically yeah. And Sawajima he says he hates Haiji, but he kind of respects him for how he's gonna do it. So they save everyone. And Sergeant was at a bar. He explains that the guy could see the symptoms very well, and he's like, "Yeah, you'd be dumb if you're a doctor not to just." He tried to recruit him, but he couldn't. The guy said no, and he says, basically knowing that Doctor him exists, makes him, he's glad. So like he respects Haiji. So yeah. So I thought these were good chapters. So yeah. So he comes across Ishiguro again. Obviously he was gonna come back at some point. I mean, if he's coming back, they're probably setting up the end. Be my bet. But yeah, I thought these were good chapters. Looking forward to the next one. Kiyoto's Magic, chapters 25 and 26. So in this chapter, you know the so this the villain whose name is Dua tries to abduct the princess, and yeah, trying to get a weapon called the magic weapon called the Delkium, basically. Yeah, so basically what the key to activating the weapon is royal blood. Yeah, so and apparently a king sacrifices his own child to survive. And then basically it's revealed to be Line, not the princess, so yeah. So then, do like goes out there. So then Kyoto runs away is able to use his save power to heal from whatever this the magic is, so deal with a lot of the brainwashing. So he fights this guy from he fought before named Noise, so the guy was in that skull mask or whatever. Yeah. So Noise challenges Kinato to a fight. Yeah. So and Kino says he won't let him get away with what happened at Kisalai, but his first priority is gonna be helping the people. And then Noise like, how you decide you're gonna lose before you even try? What the heck? Just fight me already. And then Line calls Kinato, telling him that she's being chased. So that she's in the castle, and she asks for Kinato to help. And it shows revealed the princess asked Line to be a you know, the princess asked Line to ask as like her you know, double. Yeah, but so apparently reasons because so the princess was dating some commoner and that she wants to tell him her feelings before like before he leaves. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so then yeah, so she's running from Dua, whatever. So can't so then Jun arrives and to help deal with noise while Kanto goes after Line. So then when he gets there, he saves Line. Yeah, so he deduces that Du is the one that did all the weird brainwashing magic to everyone. And you see GM fighting noise. And apparently everyone's clueless, thinking that what's going on is just part of the parade. Yeah. Apparently Dora reveals that they're part of the Order of the Apocalypse. They're soldiers made for war. Apparently there's some facility in a canyon between Rahuna and Nilgiri and somewhere off the map, but they were basically created. Experiment on his children with magical enhancement by modification, and basically used for like war, or whatever. And then basically the Rahuna had started the magic war, and basically the Order of the Apocalypse's goal is to recreate the war. Yeah. So yeah. So basically, they're just gonna destroy the whole world, make a new one. So Kanto then the duo does some magic to like warp the layout of the castle. Basically, like apparently, mostly like affects like their perception of it, like their depth perception, whatever. Lena actually breathes in the magic, so she gets messed up. Yeah, and then so and then Dua tries to get Lena, manipulate her greed because she's very greedy. How she likes money, various stuff, and but Lena doesn't like fall, doesn't become Dua's slave because she doesn't have a problem with her own greed, and so it's very funny. So and yeah, so and basically, Tino says he'll cancel out Dua's magic with his own. So it looks like that's gonna be Kinato's big fight right now. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I thought these were good chapters. Like how they're saying, so it looks like this Order the Apocalypse is like the main villain. Whether or not this is gonna be the end of the series or the lead up to the some big arc coming up, I don't know. Thought these were good chapters. Looking forward to the next one. Digimon Beatbreak episodes 40 and 41. So in these episodes, so you see Kyo's past. So as a member of the Five Stars, he was very ruthless. He was well known to like just delete Digimon, and basically he went off the grid at some point. He was injured, cared for by a girl named Karina, and their adoptive father Minoru, and so they cared for him. And then Soji had tracked him down and killed Minoru and Karina, and Kyo then took revenge, and basically Soji has fallen over the cliff, and seemed and was believed to be dead, and Kyo left Five Stars. And so basically the graves he was looking at were of those were of Karina and Minoru. So now he's like he's ready to just kill Soji, be done with it. And so, but the rest of Glowing Dawn arrived, tried to convince him to like Kyo to like calm down, and Kyo defeats so Soji's defeated, but the Kishiwada arrives, steals the that E pulse object, and takes it with him, and then but and he decides, and Kyo spares Soji, so probably Soji's probably gonna be like captured or whatever. And, I guess it looks like he's about to rejoin Glow and Dawn. So we'll see what happens with the rest of what's about to go down with like this object, because it looks like whoever E Pulse was gathering is filled up. So we'll see how things go. But yeah, I thought these were good episodes. Like how they set up this final arc. Looking forward to the next one. Roku's House of Oddities, chapters 16 and 17. So in these chapters, so you had the Malediction boys doing like some like video about the apartment complex kidnapping, basically like something regarding like a phone booth, and like just some urban legend about a kid being kidnapped. So, and basically the apartment complex is believed to be haunted by the kid's resentment. And then yeah, and so basically they decide. So Roku and Kane decide to go there. They check it out because they had sent something, and the doll goes along too. So yeah, and so then a guy named Tenkai is like a spiritualist arrives, asks him to leave because it's a place of maelstrom. Calls it a maelstrom of resentment and hatred, and that tourists should not be around. And so basically, apparently, he's there trying to visit the place. And the guy asks Roku if he's familiar with the Moonlit Tales of Ko- Kokubunji, and he claims to be the one who sealed the five curses. Yeah, and then basically it seems like he was not the one who one who did it. Considering some of them were sealed for hundreds of years. So yeah, and then basically, King Rod explains that, exorcism, there's two ways to deal with spirits, exorcism or salvation. And, exorcism is just a forceful removal of a curse. And then, but salvation is like a more, I guess, peaceful one. You'll see, like, the kidnapper was like the apartment complex and the kid was being held there. Yeah, so then Roku senses, like, the, the malice of the kid. And I guess the spirits possess Tenkai. Yeah. And then yeah. So then all the other curses are able to feel the power. So then obviously they're setting up the exorcism. So the king suggests exorcism. So then the other curses arrive to help deal with it. And yeah. So yeah. And then basically says basically the spirit says when he was a kid, he wasn't able to he was cold and lonely, and he says he wants to see his mother and father. So basically, their ultimate fate of a curse to lose sight of who they were. So basically, if they exercise the spirit, the soul will be saved. Yeah, and yeah, but basically, King says, there's no hope for salvation for the kid. So, basically, Rook's idea is to have him take the kid to his home, so maybe help if they could do salvation. Yeah, and then yeah, so basically they take the kid, who's in Tenkai's body to the. They find that they're able to find like where the house was. So and basically the kidnapping had happened over 50 years ago. And basically they see this old couple as the kid's parents. So and he says he came back home, so he's at peace and he's able to go away. Yeah. And basically so Tenkai's asleep, but yeah, he should awaken soon. Then they go back home, and then the parents, they wake up, and apparently it seems like the kid, as far as they're concerned, appeared in a dream, and so like they're a little at peace with what happened to their kid now. So yeah, a little happy ending there. Sad the spirits, basically nothingness now, but got a little peace with his parents before moving on to the afterlife. So yeah, I thought these were good chapters. Looking forward to the next one. Class 2B Hero Destroyerz chapters 14 and 15. So in these chapters, so Valaris is like, acting a little weird. Basically, he's a Demon King cold. So, yeah. So, Valaris has to like recover from it. The symptoms are pretty weird. Yeah, so, everyone's trying to deal with it. And then, and, yeah. And so some of your delinquents are wanting Kumon to hand over Valaris. And then, they should kind of kill Valaris. Yeah. And Kumon says he's a Demon King. And apparently he has the cold too. Yeah. And then, basically they're both trying to order each other what to do. And they both have the cold, so it's kind of funny how they interact. So yeah, you know, it's actually pretty funny how they interact. So then, they just recover from it. So then you have, everyone else dealing with, how they're in another world. Yeah. So this one kid is like Jiro Hakaze just looking at everything. Everything's going on with all the other characters. You see his perspective, what's going on. So, you know, basically he's like the bottom run of the school. So, you see something about how Ubon is, how he doesn't like suck up to anyone. He's not disrespectful. He's just kind of there. And so you have the student council's done like all their rules, how they deal with like discipline and all that. Seems like Kumon possibly has changed things to bring about some order. Yeah. So yeah, then they Kumon's trying to study, trying to keep a promise to a friend. And he think because you have how the bathrooms are getting cleaned up and all that. Yeah. So then basically the kid asks for offers the linguist for them to work together to clean the bathroom. And then basically so some students have barricaded their floor, sent demands saying make make the bomb run nerds clean the bathrooms, and or else they don't know what they'll do to a hostage. Yeah. Yeah, so then Kumon says he's gonna take out the trash, so it looks like they're gonna deal with the delinquents probably pretty quickly. But yeah, I thought these were decent chapters. You have the Demon King Cold was pretty funny. You have this like side character, at least for now, maybe the basically the nerd becomes a major character going forward. Who knows? But yeah, I thought these were good chapters. Looking forward to the next one. Hal Formula Chapters 7 and 8. So in these chapters, S- Suzukaze's continuing like his race. He's able to do the turns well, and then you have and basically Parent Turn 11's coming up, and that's like big like one of the major turns for how like the timing is because like I guess it's an infamously difficult turn. So you see Suzukaze has he's able to do it. So Miru's like looking at it, and like he's able to like see his life flashing before his eyes, and he's able to do it. And then apparently got the fastest lap time so far. So yeah, and he says it's almost like the driving technique of a legendary driver. And apparently he compares it to Michael Schumacher, you know, and then so yeah, that's an interesting person to compare. Like interesting person to compare like the driver to because he's like Schumacher was an actual like racer, like holds a record for basically he made a lot, did a lot, won a lot of races, 7 championships and all that. So and then yeah, and then basically looks like the Dan, one of the engineers, was able to figure out how just to set up. And so basically, the other turns comes around, who makes fewest mistakes. And so then got someone named Aka Shiromiya arrives, and then so basically, so it was like someone that wanted Kyogoku to be on his side, and basically Kyogo says they're opposites. There's nothing he can teach Shiromiya. Yeah, and so basically, says the view that Kyogoku can no longer see could still be his through. So it seems like Kyogoku, I guess maybe whatever view that Miharu has, he can't see anymore. It seems like that's what it's hinted. So Miharu finishes like his run, and you have obviously you have Miharu and Hinokura. They're concentrating on racing each other. You know soon. Yeah, yeah. So apparently Shiromio is like a former student of Kyogoku. Guess whatever happened, they split up. So yeah. So then Miharu watches Hinokura's like practice run. You know. So then basically so it looks like their times are gonna end up the same, but their times he you know Miharu's like very much full throttle. Hinokura's more like efficiency also like different styles, but their times are very good. So be interesting dynamics as far as who will win a race or whatever. So that'll be interesting. So Hinokura does his like he beats Suzukaze by zero point 0.3 seconds and gets pole position. Yeah. Yeah, so basically, Kyogo says the difference is actually the cars because their skills are actually pretty even. Yeah. And then, basically, so, and Miura says, whoever takes first place will be the winner. And he tells Hinokuri, he'll be the one passing them. So they shake hands and challenge each other for I guess the next for the race. So looks like that's gonna set up like their a rivalry for the next race. So yeah, I thought these were good chapters. Looks like the qualifying races were done. The actual race is about to start. So we'll see how that goes with Hiyakura versus Miharu. That should be interesting rivalry. But yeah, I thought these were good chapters. Looking forward to the next one. Handmaster chapters 6 and 7. So in um this chapter, these chapters, so Captain Raylo arrives and explains so basically with Ruga being his apprentice, so he learns what's Ryo tells Ruga he can't beat Barat yet, no rush, and apparently Ryo's like if Raylo is very hands off, and then yeah, basically Ryo explains he's known him for a decade, before the war, when he left his homeland, the hamlet of Wind, and everyone's shocked by the name. Basically it's famous for there's a clan of people who harness the power of the wind, and that basically the real Barat's a survivor of the Wind clan. Yeah, and so yeah, and then basically you know Ryo had hoped Rail had hoped that Ruga would spar with Barat to like I guess humble him a little bit, and Barat says no. Yeah, yeah, that was a wager, but like he asked for Ruga to join him because we'll need he says that they'll need like Ruga's help, and and he says Ruga doesn't have anyone on age to compete with, so he asked if Ruga would get to know him a little bit. Yeah, yeah. So then Vice so Vice Captain I guess Gano arrives, and asking what everyone's doing in the what everyone's doing. Yeah, so looks like everyone prepares for the mission to attack, the deal with the town. There's apparently 3,000 civilians hostage, held by the regolith, and then and apparently one of the hostages. and Brigitte is the economic minister who is doing an inspection. And was like a lead, and basically is a leader in researching Regulus. So it would cause a lot of problems if that person had died. Both in the economy and how to fight the Regulus. Yeah. So and then yeah, and then basically we were asked if the demon's there for something else. Barat's concerned about the safety, so they all get there ready to fight, and then you see a bunch of civilians. They say, and apparently the minister is being held at top of the tower. Apparently he gave himself up so that the other hostages could be freed. And basically Barat says they'll save the minister. So then Barat and Noor ride up and try to save the minister. So then yeah, basically that focus on just saving the minister, and draw the regolith away from the civilians. And then yeah, so they get the minister. Then the regolith starts chasing them, and the minister introduces himself as Sandalga, is the Sandalga Kingdom's Minister of Finance. Pain, uh, Kana Torrid. Basically, they all introduce themselves. So then, they run from the regolith, which can fly. It's like a bird, like enemy. So yeah, and then they're able to use its power. So so Barat uses wind attacks to try to fight off the regolith, and then yeah. So there was someone riding it, the regolith, and then you know basically so it's like whoever's riding says to win a battle, some people must be sacrificed, and Barat says he's not gonna that they're not gonna repeat the tragedies of war. He'll beat that belief out of them. So it's like Barat's gonna challenge the enemy. So yeah, I thought this was a good chapter. Liked how they're set up to fight this enemy. It should be a big fight next week. So yeah, I thought these were good chapters. Looking forward to the next one. Rick and Morty, season 9, episode 10, and full season. So when this episode, so basically, so Rick and Morty go to a universe where a Smith family had died. They do estate sales, sell off belongings, whatever. Apparently that's common. I guess whenever a Smith family dies. So as Sunglasses Morty arrives, basically he goes to his own funerals just to see, hear what the I guess so basically goes to funerals for other versions of Morty just to hear what the Smith family would say about him. So he gives Morty a portal gun junior to go around dimensions to attend his own funerals. Now he goes to one. Now the Smith family's in mourning. Basically, that Smith family's Rick was never basically that Rick had never just figured out like how to use portal guns or whatever, but was a drunk, so that Rick was kind of out of the family, and that basically so Morty comes across that Smith family, and then Morty bonds with them, and he's a good house keys, and he's disappointed by how his own family's dysfunctional, so he's like stay with that Morty's family. Apparently that Morty was called Mort. So, and Mort's Jerry destroys the Portal Gun Jr. to force Morty to stay and permanently replace Mort. Morty gets scared, finds a bunker built by Mort, a bunker building and finds a diary Mort wrote about how I guess he was frustrated with Jerry trying to push Mort to overachieve, which led to his death. Yeah. So Mori goes to MIT where he finds a sober Rick, who is since remarried and has become like a successful teacher at MIT and basically goes to AA meetings, kind of well adjusted. So Morty gets Sober Rick to make a new portal gun, but it causes him to go back to drinking, and his wife Uli leaves him. So Mort's family finds Sober Rick and see like how he's now drunk now and doing portals. It leads to a gunfight. Everyone dies except for Morty. So a bunch of Ricks and Mortys arrive for a estate sale. And Morty finds his Rick, and Morty uses Sober Rick's invention to turn sunglasses Morty to a long-necked dog. And so Morty rides with Rick on a motorcycle, and basically, so he, has some like solace in the fact that basically they're closer than how most Ricks and Mortys are. So they're happy with they're like dynamic. Then you have a post credit scene where Mr. Pooey Butthole he's in some dimensional ship. So so Amy's trying to find where her Mr. Pooey Butthole's at. Because the one we know, his Amy left him and he replaced another one. But the experiment caused problems and everyone disappears from the laboratory. So whether that's going to be something that comes up in a later season, who knows? Because we still have, believe it got renewed through like it got renewed I think through like season 12. Like that's how far the renewal goes. I mean, because the 70 episode order ends with, I believe, with season 10. If they keep doing 10 episodes, then I guess they got two more seasons at least. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how they're gonna get that. So yeah, this was probably one of the more watchable episodes of this season. Still wasn't necessarily very good. I mean, the idea of showing like a Smith family that's actually normal could have worked. I wish they had shown that more. They show as like I guess they're kind of obsessive, like it's kind of messed up. You know, there's a lot like it wasn't that great of an episode, but I mean this season wasn't really that good. Like there's some a few stuff here and there that was interesting in concept. Like the vacation plan, whatever. But like overall, this season just sucked. Like it, I don't know how this show is still around. Like, but hey, I'll I'll keep watching it to review it. Hunter x Hunter chapters 415 and 416. So in these chapters, so you have all stuff with the curse, the Seedorn ritual, and so everyone's trying to figure out what's going on, and so everyone's trying to discuss how they handle things with the secession battle, and like yeah, and how to deal with the curse. So yeah, honestly, like Furrykov's trying to figure all everything out, and because there's a lot, so Baster's holding about possibly killing all the princes besides Prince Benjamin, and then choose the sole heir, and whoever the heir is, that'll be the rule. And so that apparently that's what some people think is best. Yeah, and so yeah, so everyone's like concerned about what's going on. So apparently Kurapika learns about something called a journal store dealer, and so and basically it's a delivery service that uses drones and boats to deliver. And so yeah, and then you know, so Kurapika's trying to prepare for when martial law gets into effect. You know, yeah. So and everything's going on. So then after that, because Kirby is concerned about the military getting involved. So then martial law is announced is going to effect. So yeah, so everyone's prepared for martial law, and so yeah, so everyone's bodyguards are preparing, all security, all the passengers, they're gonna prepare. They're preparing for like martial law to go into effect. And then yeah, so everyone gathers their weapons. Looks like we're something's about to go down. Yeah, yeah. So based on martial law, also allows for Wobble to be searched more. For a search for Wobble to be more thorough. Yeah, and basically, so you gotta weigh the risk of everything, see what's going on. Yeah. So and basically, what's going on? Everyone has their people have some people have their gun, hands to their heads, whatever. Say anyone moves without permission will be basically be shot. Is how it is. So and so it looks like you have and and basically everyone's like, "Do you want to shoot out? We're gonna go." So basically, so yeah, that's and then and you have one guy like shoot himself to try to like curse the one Prince Benjamin. Yeah. So yeah, so basically it was like Benjamin gets cursed. Yeah. And then so then basically there's a war. Benjamin asks if he infects he come like if he like infects Camilla with the disease, will her because her Camilla's like the inability is acts in response when she dies. So basically, she can't be killed. So and Benjamin asked if he infects her with disease, says it's incurable. Will it be he killing her or disease? Would a and basically would like a virus have enough aura for her to be brought back to life? Yeah. So basically, leads the question: how could she be killed? So and so yeah. So then basically, so Serendek prepares like to die, whatever, or possibly fake his death, and he tells his bodyguard to tell him what he sees, appeal what he saw, and then yeah, so it's like everyone's prepared for like this file like stand amongst like the the heir potential heirs to the throne. Yeah, and so Benjamin wants Kurapika. So you have Zetsu, offer. So Zetsu, who's like the one who was trying about things that offers to spar with Benjamin, but Benjamin just shoots him. Says who asks him if he gave him permission to speak. So yeah, things are about to pick up. Fine. I hope we're finally gonna finish this whole secession battle. Like I would like it to just be done with before like it get to the new continent. Like if this is all like all right, showtime's all right, playtime's over, we're gonna finish it all then now. Great, because I mean it's been dragging on for a while. It's interesting for a little, but it's like it's been dragging on. Can we get back to the content and get like okay, we had the cameos from Gone and like Kilika, but like can we get them fully back in the story? Like like get them fully back and show this new content that's supposed to be really big. Like that's what I want to see. Overall, these are like decent chapters. I mean, but they have dragged on a little bit. Looking forward to the next chapter. Let's go Kaikigumi episodes 4 and 5. So in these episodes, there's a whole bit where the protagonist learns that someone like him is going around doing stuff. So there's revealed to be a doppelganger that's like has a crush on Mechiko. So then tries to like get with Mechiko by disguising himself as the protagonist, but she rejects him, defeats him, and like I guess he works with Shuriko. And there's a whole deal that there's a cursed VHS tape. Yeah, man, VHS. That's a blast in the past. But yeah, it's freaking funny. Like the whole doppelganger. It was actually kind of funny. And then you have later, Shuriko, the doppelganger tried to make their plans, whatever, do stuff. Then you have so the protagonist comes across this talking cucumber spirit thing, and basically the protagonist like befriends it, but it like goes away, whatever. Yeah. So yeah, you see like everyone's trying to figure out what's going. But yeah, then you have the cursed manhole cover. And, like he's told he stepped on manhole, he's cursed, but it turns out like the manhole is blamed for some other type of curse or whatever. So it's kind of funny. But yeah, so there's a little bit of Shuriko. She can't read now. I guess when she stuck her child form, it's kind of funny. But yeah, I thought this was I thought these were good episodes. It was funny, little gags here and there. You know, basically just like little segments of that. So yeah, I thought these were good episodes. Looking forward to the next one. House of the Dragon, season 3, episode 7. So in this episode, Rhaenyra interrogates Helena about her dreams, tries to get her to tell her, where Aemon's at, you know, Damon, where like, and so like what's going, how she should win the war, and so Adam and Bela spot Sheep Stealer with the rider, and they notify Rhaenyra about it. So and Missaria tries to convince Rhaenyra that Damon had betrayed her. Now Damon tracks down Rhaena, having heard about her Ryan Sheepstealer, but she has issues controlling Sheepstealer. I mean, he's a wild dragon. Rhaena apparently has been hunting Vhagar. Basically, she believes by killing Vhagar, Rhaenyra will spare her. And Rhaenyra and Am arrive, and their dragons attack Sheepstealer. Caraxes wounds Sheepstealer, and Sheepstealer limps away. Rhaena's brought to King's Landing and reunites with Bela. And Damon tells Rhaenyra he was trying to protect his daughter. And Rhaenyra accuses Massaria of like manipulating her, and like Massaria basically she has her own agenda regarding like the small folk, whatever. Which is why I thought with the two betrayers that's in the books, I thought Massaria was going to be involved with that. Turns out not the case, but Massaria will just seduce Renera and they have sex. Now, Eamon has a vision of Allison arriving at Heron Hall, and it appears that Eamon has um sex with Allison, but it's implied to actually be like to to be actually Alice Rivers, um basically impersonate using her magic to impersonate Allison. So in the books they do have a kid. Eamon and Alice do have a kid. And Alice uses the kid to make a claim for the throne when she rules like the Witch King of Harrenhal. Which there's a lot of mysteries what happened about her fate because she kind of disappears from the historical record. And the way it looks like it's like because you had Damon where he had that weird vision where he's seemingly having sex with his own mother. Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, I know they're Targaryens, but that's taboo for Targaryens. But turns out it was basically it's part of her it basically was part of her magics and so then the real Alistair arrives and Alice tries to tell Eamon that Alison's not there to help him. Now Alison Hightower should still be in King's Lane because she should just be in King's Lane as a prisoner. In the books, that's what she is. She's basically a prisoner there for a while. And basically they have a little family dinner that goes wrong. Eamon says he wants to use Heron Hall as his new seat of power as he provides time prepared to take back King's Landing from Rhaenyra. Alicent leaves after poisoning Aemond, and Aemond, asks Alice for help. And so, Aegon, Tyland, and um, Lars, they're on the run. There's some of Rhaenyra's troops are hunting Tyland. Aegon says he wants to make his last stand. Tyland says he'll stay with it. Lars says he'll go. Some of the others they leave. They don't want to deal with Rhaenyra's men. And Lars says, um, he'll stay if Aeon commands, but since he's a cripple, he won't really be any help in the fight. So yeah. And then Sunfire arrives and kills Rhaenyra. So people knew that Sunfire was alive. People in the books, because in the books, what something that Sunfire does is kind of mentioned in the original show. Yeah. So and then and basically so yeah, so then basically so after that Orman's talking with his spy within King's Landing. Um and then his spies revealed to be Ulf. So now in the books, Ulf is one of the betrayers. Ulf and Hugh betray, you know, Rhaenyra in the books at the first Battle of Tumbleton. That does happen. And Ormond offers Driftmark to Ulf since there it will be probably need of a new lord soon. So yeah. So then basically now like with everything yeah, things are definitely going crazy. So yeah, they've gone so far off the books. Like, so Allison should not be leaving King's Lane right now. Now the whole Rhaenyra interrogating Helena, that probably could have happened. Something like that could have happened in the books. I mean, because she had some sympathy for Helena, but she wasn't completely sympathetic. Now Masaria's supposed to be screwing Damon, and of course you had Nettles being left out of the show. Because Reyna has her own dragon called Morty. Now it's a baby dragon. I don't think it's hatched yet. It's like one of the last ones to die. And so but yeah, so it seems like Helena's still pregnant, but she has like a vision of her, I guess, giving a giving birth and like having her dragon burn people, whatever. And yeah, so Sunfire's alive. The officers are setting up the him retaking Dragonstone, which will probably be next week. But yeah, I didn't like this episode because of the straight so far from the books. You know, I thought we were going to get Tumbleton, but I guess Tumbleton's next week. So that'll be a big cliffhanger where it's just one battle, or if they're going to merge the two. I don't know. Stupid for them to merge the two. But yeah, we'll see what happens next week. Kagurabachi chapters 126 and 127. So in these chapters, so Rokihira is trying to forge the swords, and Rookie remembers his father was like a abusive drunk, and like he would beat, and his father would beat him and his mother, and apparently like his father had died during a fight with a customer, and basically his mother looked relieved, and then so basically they had enough money to get by, but his mother couldn't work, so and then basically his mother like tried to like be like I guess try to I guess hurt him whatever. I guess maybe he looked like his father. And then his mother left. You know, so yeah, so he basically was by himself, but he had some friends. You know, and then yeah, so he made some friends. He didn't want he started caring about him, and then you know basically so you see how what so you see how he made his friends. He started caring for them, and then you know basically so the princess had like befriend him, hung out with him. So yeah, so yeah, so then they hung out with spark using playing with sparklers, whatever. then you have focuses back on him like forging the sword, and basically someone I guess who was mad at him tried to attack him, but Shiba had beat him up. Yeah, yeah, and Chiaki was hurt from the attack by the guy, but yeah, and basically the only part of his father he admired was his blacksmith name, Yamaroku Roku Isa, and then and so the sword that was used to attack was one that his father had made, and so and you see he's like trying to forge the dot use the dot and seki to forge the what the swords or whatever, and you have a lot of the government people are arriving, and basically with trying to help Chiaki, that's like his life has purpose. So then a lot of the soldiers are arriving, trying to stop what's going on to prevent a war. So it looks like everyone else is trying to help hold off the soldiers while Rokuhiro finishes making the swords. So we'll see how all that goes. But yeah, I thought these were good chapters. They give us some of Rokuhiro's like his motives in regarding Chiaki, and forging the swords. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I thought these were good chapters. Looking forward to the next one. President Curtis, episodes 1 and 2. So this is a spell for Rick and Morty about, well, President Curtis. So this kind of makes fun of like, conspiracy theories, about the government, stuff like that. So you have, a cyborg named Ro Banks, starts her first day as the chief of staff. So Curtis gives a briefing on the death of Paul Bunyan. Then, CIA agent Jack Coffey tries to steal footage of the moon landing and tries to blackmail Curtis. And so basically what's revealed after the whole like so there was a baby, especially bred baby named Adam, was left on the moon during the moon landing. And like basically the kid Adam has like the blood, it's like basically like a clone whatever of John F. Kennedy. So the CIA wants that doesn't want any proof that baby. So they don't have his basically when they don't have they're not able to have a ship, so they Curtis asks Rick Sanchez to borrow if he can borrow one. So he, Banks, and Doyle go to the moon to come across Adam. Adam believes he's dead to become president, and so Adam's captured. And so apparently, so Curtis reveals to keep the CIA able to blackmail the footage on him. He reveals the footage publicly, which is him taking a crap in the White House gym. Now, Coffee is punished by his superiors for failing. Banks is able to move to a new office. And, you know, Doyle tries to make some EMP bullets to kill Banks. And so then after, then next episode, you have basically there's a Loch Ness monster that's found. And basically there's revealed to be a prison inside Bermuda Triangle for like supernatural threats. So apparently there's been a lot of escapees, but all of them, the escapees are ones that are real dead. So that Curtis has got to do investigation. So they investigate, go to the prison, the Bermuda Triangle. They have Amelia Earhart take them there. Basically, she was stuck in Bermuda Triangle. Basically, now she's like in charge of like helping transport people through there. So yeah. So then they investigate the prison. You know basically Banks is like sent to Doyle is sent like as like a undercover like prisoner, and then so he's able to like befriend one of the monsters. So then, it's revealed that the Warrens try to do some Monster Inc. style thing, like style plot to like send monsters to the world, like I guess scare children, whatever. And like but during the fight, that the warden's killed, and then Amelia Earhart basically replaces him. So yeah, like this is definitely better than the Rick and Morty seasons right now than the most recent Rick and Morty season. I mean, it's actually better. I mean, I like how it makes fun of like government conspiracies, like all the conspiracy theories. Like that is something yes it should lean into, like make jokes about it. I mean I. I mean, really, like I would be shocked if they don't do a Roswell episode. But yeah, I thought these weren't bad. These were actually decent episodes. Interested in what the rest of this season does. My Hero Academia, I Am a Hero Too. So this is just a 6 minute short. You know, basically it's like a bonus chapter. So you have Airi, who's a high schooler now. She's trying to be a musician. So she visits Eraserhead, Present Mike. She tries to visit Deku, but Deku's busy, and you see some news coverage of so Deku's now the number 4 ranked hero. I guess his team up with Shoto and Dynamite helped Dynamite get up to number 5 in rankings. So Lemillion's still number 1. You know, Shoto's number 2. Mount Lay's number 3. Deku went up to was at number 4. Rose up through rankings very quickly. So yeah, and you see, Eri does her little performance. She sings Hero 2, the song that's highly associated with the show. And you see, everyone watching, people watching from the side. Honestly, all the ones who are heroes, they watch from the background, to keep the attention on Eri. So, so Deku, Lemillion, they're happy that, um, Aries like moved on, happy, moved on from like all the stuff that happened to her. And it's decent, whatever. It's basically, basically this is probably the last we'll see in My Hero Academia for a while, outside, if we get a season 3 of Vigilantes, or if we get a movie or something about the UA characters being pro heroes, which I want to happen. I think that's possible. Like that would be awesome if we got to actually show off the full capabilities of Deku's armor. But yeah, overall, I thought this was a decent, short. Well, that's it. Did y'all like the stuff I reviewed? And if you have your own opinions about all that, you can put all that in the comments. Thank you for watching, and like, subscribe, and all that. And look forward to the next video.